Chapter 7 is just dropped, and I'm going to rank every single item from the ones you'd only pick up in the early game to the most broken, and tell you when you should and shouldn't use these specific weapons. So let's start off with the shotguns, and the first of these is the Iron Pump shotgun, and I think personally this is the best shotgun Fortnite has ever added. If you watched my previous video on shotguns, you'll probably be able to understand why. The body shot damage, extremely well balanced. It's pretty much exactly the same as the Thunder Pump. In a blue rarity, it'll deal 101 damage, and anything below blue rarity will not be able to one pump someone with no shield. The headshot damage is also very nice, 185 in the blue, and the gold rarity can one pump. It deals 202 damage. Also, if you're off by one pellet, it'll look like you have 200, but you actually won't. The structure damage is also relatively low at only 50, and if you know me personally, you know I absolutely hate high structure damage shotguns like the Sentinel Pump, so this is a big win. And most importantly, the pull-out time is also incredibly fast at 330 milliseconds, which is very similar to the Hammer Pump and the Sentinel Pump. So for box fighting, this thing feels absolutely insane. I genuinely think this is my favorite shotgun that I've ever used. Most importantly, unlike a lot of the more recent pump shotguns, it has 5 bullets. 5 bullets per reload rather than 4. So it's a win for me. It's a win for me. Unsurprisingly, min pump shotgun is in the meta. Now, the second shotgun is the Twin Hammers. And this is much more like a tactical shotgun than anything else. It does look like a pump, but it's not. It acts like a tactical. And when you compare it to a tactical, it's actually relatively similar. Damage is 71 in comparison to the 88 of the tac, but it fires a little bit faster with a fire rate of 2.01 rather than 1.5 of the tactical. This means that the damage per second is around 142 in comparison to the tactical's 132. So it actually deals a little bit more damage per second than the tac, but less per shot. It also has a very fast pull-out time, very similar to the iron. So again, a very nice feeling weapon. Since it's just your standard auto shotgun that's not super powered, it's just going to go straight into the balanced tier. Now let's move on to the assault rifles and SMGs. Now I'm actually going to combine these sections together, and you'll kind of see why in a second, but a lot of these are very interchangeable, and all of them have their own uses. Outside of, I'll be honest, the dual micro SMGs. Now these have an insanely high fire rate of 25. For reference, the standard blue assault rifle is 5.5. So this being 25 means it fires insanely fast, but it only has a clip size of 34. This means you can only spray for about 1.3 seconds before it runs out of ammo, which means that if you're in a box, in order to actually destroy builds or try to replace something, you have to reload this constantly over and over again. So it is a really good item. However, you probably have to carry an assault rifle with it to make it actually really strong in box. Now, if you actually shred with this, it is very strong, and you can always get some damage through builds, but in all honesty, it's been in this Simpsons season, not many people carried it, so it's just going into the balanced tier. Now, this is why I combined all of these, because there's 2 assault rifles, which is the Deadeye assault rifle and the Enforcer, and then there's also the Hollow Rush SMG and then the Tactical Pistol, and all 4 of these can be used as your main weapon. When comparing the damage per second across all of these, the 2 assault rifles are actually the worst. The Deadeye assault rifle having a 132 damage per second and the Enforcer having a 144.3. However, comparing between these 2 assault rifles, you'll notice the Enforcer has a lower fire rate but higher damage per shot, with blue dealing 37 damage in comparison to the Deadeye's 24. Unsurprisingly, the Hollow Rush SMG has a higher damage per second, being 177, with the Tactical Pistol also being around the same at 172.5. But when you look at the damage per second at range, this is where things get different, because different weapons have different damage drop-offs. Now, for the 2 assault rifles, their damage drop-off starts at 60 meters and ends at around 115. However, for the SMGs and for the pistols, damage drop-off starts at 30 meters and ends at 70. But what's really different is actually how much damage drops off. For the assault rifles and the pistols, there's not really a huge amount of change. The Enforcer, for example, has a normal 37 damage, but at its max drop-off distance, it does 33, so it only loses 4 damage per shot. However, for the Hollow SMG, it starts at 15 and drops all the way down to 8. For some reason, the Tactical Pistol doesn't really have that much of a drop-off either, which makes it an insanely good weapon at close range and at long range. And actually, when comparing at 115 meters, where all 4 of these weapons have had their max damage drop-off, the highest damage per second weapon is the Tactical Pistol. However, there's a lot more to consider than just damage per second. Firstly, it has the highest recoil out of any of these 4. Now, a lot of them barely have any recoil whatsoever. The Deadeye Assault Rifle basically has 0 recoil whatsoever, and the Enforcer doesn't have much either. And then the Hollow and the Tactical Pistol don't look like they have that much recoil, but at longer ranges, it's actually quite hard to hit consecutive shots with them. The same can be said about Bloom as well. Because the Deadeye and the Hollow both have a scope, they pretty much have no Bloom when you're ADSing. However, the Tactical Pistol obviously has some randomness in its spread, and it has much more randomness than the Enforcer Assault Rifle. So despite being the the highest damage per second, it is actually the hardest to hit shots with. You also have to account for the fact that the Deadeye and the Hollow Rush have scopes as well, which means that you're going to be able to see things at much further distances. And for competitive, typically scoped assault rifles are nearly always just the main carry. However, another thing that's also very important is that the headshot multipliers are different across these. Pistols, for the most part, have a 2x headshot multiplier, and this is the exact same. And because the blue rarity deals 25 to the body, this means this does a 50 headshot damage, so you can actually 4-shot someone with a blue tactical pistol. The Hollow Rush SMG also has a 1.5 times headshot multiplier, similar to previous assault rifles. However, the assault rifles this season have a 1.75 for the Deadeye and a 1.7 times headshot multiplier. So with all of these stats numbers said, where do you use each of these weapons and where do they fit? Well, the Hollow Rush SMG can be used as an assault rifle, but realistically, everything else is much better. So this is just going to go into balance. The tactical pistol, I actually think, is probably the best overall weapon, despite the fact you have to keep reloading it because it doesn't have as big of a clip size. But the damage per second, the 2x headshot multiplier, the fact that you're using mini ammo makes it insanely strong. And I would imagine that in duos, one person's probably going to carry the tactical pistol and someone else is just going to carry an assault rifle at basically all times at all levels of play. Then between the two assault rifles, the Deadeye and the Enforcer, the Deadeye does have the scope. So quite frankly, that immediately makes it much better, and a lot of competitive players are probably going to take it just for that. However, the massive damage per shot on the Enforcer means single tags with it are just going to be insanely strong. So I think the Deadeye, the Enforcer, and the tactical pistol are all just going to go into the meta. Another small note to add onto the tactical pistol is now when you can jump and ADS at the same time, for some reason the tactical pistol maintains its first shot accuracy whilst you're jumping. I don't know if that's entirely intentional because it doesn't happen with the Enforcer assault rifle. So this means you can kind of jump peek over things with 100% first shot accuracy. And when you do this with one of these scoped assault rifles or SMGs, you actually get a smaller field of view, which actually makes it more difficult to do this jump peek with. All right, let's move on to the other weapons. Now, there's actually all 5 of these are not in competitive. So I'll let everyone know what they're like for my pubs people. Firstly is the Arc Lightning gun. Now this basically shoots lightning, and if you just shoot players, it's not really that good, but it actually connects to builds and connects to other players and bounces off of them as well. So you can damage a lot of people nearby, and you don't really have to have a lot of accuracy. Honestly, this gun's not that good, but it's not competitive, so it's going in that tier. Next up is the Vengeful Sniper Rifle, and it goes from 84 body up to 92. Now, importantly with the headshot here, it does 168 to the body in a blue rarity and up to 184. So this is a sniper which cannot one-shot headshot. It does have a clip size of 3 though, so you can kind of keep firing shots with it, but ultimately, if this wasn't comp, I don't think a lot of players would carry it purely because of the fact that it doesn't do a lot of headshot damage and there's scoped assault rifles in the game. The next 3 are all explosives. There's grenades, dynamite, and clingers. Now, if you've not seen the clingers and the dynamite, you actually get them from the balloons. There's spawns on there that you can get them from. All 3 of these are not in comp. Thank God. Next up, we got the Mythics. Now, there's Mythic versions of a lot of the items that we've already talked about. One of them, as I already mentioned, is the Arc Lightning gun, which is not actually available in competitive, so we can score that out. And as far as I'm aware, there's only 3 other Mythics. 2 of them are weapons. The first one is the Hush's Deadeye Assault Rifle, and the second is the Bruce's Twin Hammer Pump. Now, this shotgun deals 82 to the body, but 130 to the head. So you can 2-tag someone very, very easily with this. So it is good, and I do think it'll be worth picking up, but I'll be honest, the iron shotgun is so strong that it'll be hard to kind of justify to pick up a single mythic at all. I could say this is meta, but I'm just going to put it into strong. The other pickupable weapon is Hush's Deadeye Assault Rifle. Obviously, it's just the mythic version of the gun we've already talked about, so this is going straight into the meta. Now, as I was recording this, I actually found out there was 2 more hidden mythics that we need to add to the list. The first is the mythic Iron Pump Shotgun, which can be obtained by breaking the world record deadlift at 515 kilos at ripped tides. This will take 2 minutes, and there's only 33% chance you'll actually get it from here, but if you eat a bunch of the stakes that are around, it'll speed up the process. Now, this deals 210 damage to the head and 116 to the body. This is the best shotgun in the game, so unsurprisingly, it is the meta. Now, there is a mythic pistol, but it's not currently obtainable in game, so I'm not going to count that in this video. And the other hidden mythic is the Enforcer AR, which can be found by jumping over this ramp with a car, and it'll be again a 33% chance. But because you need a car, this is not available in comp. Now, the other mythics are not actually droppable, and these are transform mythics. Now, to obtain these mythics, you have to beat some of the bosses that are rotating around the map. However, once you've beaten them, they also drop a transform mythic, which makes you transform into that boss. Now, this is undroppable, so once you picked it up, you cannot get rid of this effect, and it shows your location on the map at all times. And we know from everything that's ever been done in competitive, if it shows your location on the map, this thing is not getting picked up by pros whatsoever. But, you know, it has a couple things to make you think it's worth picking up. Firstly, it changes your shield and your HP to max at 125 and gives you a 100 overshield that repeatedly recharges. So if you've done the maths correctly, that's 350 HP total that you have whilst using this boss. But the reason most people aren't going to pick it up is because you're so unbelievably visible. Above you, you have a health bar as you're running around. So literally, as you're fighting someone who's carrying this, you can see them through walls, and it's so easy to shoot people, predict them, piece them. Basically, everyone has wall hacks on you. So I'd be very surprised if I saw top level pros carrying this. So I'm going to put this into the balanced tier somehow. Right, next up is the heals and the utility items. I'm just going to put all of the old stuff into their usual spots because I don't want to talk about them every single video. But a couple of important notes. The first is the shield keg, which has come back and is only available inside of the vending machines. Now, it might look crazy. It's 750 gold, but it's actually extremely easy to get gold this season. Each chest has a 100% chance of dropping either 50, 75, or 100 gold, which means that to get 750 to get a couple shield kegs is not really that big of an ask. On top of that, safes give 1,000 gold and cash registers give you 250. So in order to get 750 gold to get a shield keg to heal you and your team, it's not really that much of a stretch. So because they're the only team heal, I think they're going to be incredibly strong, but I can't say I'm going to put them into the meta. And the next one is the new item, the self-revive device. Now, this thing is absolutely the meta. If you pick one up, you'll see it goes into the resources slot. It doesn't actually take up an inventory slot at all. So there's genuinely no downside of carrying this whatsoever. And this allows you to self-revive. Now in solos, if you're carrying this, you actually get knocked. So you have a chance to self-revive even in solos. And in duos, like, this thing is so unbelievably strong because if you get knocked, your teammate can then just hold the walls as you're reviving yourself. So he doesn't really need to try and revive, stop. He can just sit, hold the walls, make sure there's a few layers between you whilst you self-revive. Unsurprisingly, this thing is the meta. And finally, the mobility items. These are the fun ones. Shockwaves, not uncompetitive, but the wingsuit. Now, the wingsuit is so fun, I'll be honest. Now, I thought this would be kind of like the wings of Icarus, as when you fly with this, you kind of hold out your wings to start with. I thought this would increase your hitbox and make it really easy for you to be hit. I'm not sure if it actually does increase the hitbox or not, but what I can say is it's definitely not easy to be hit. If you're just slowly gliding through the sky, sure, you can get beamed, but if you're actually moving very, very quickly, then it is very difficult to get hit. There's a slow animation at the start, which does not break through builds, very importantly, which means that if you're going to use this in an endgame, you actually have to open and edit and then try to use the item to fly out of it, which means you're going to be exposed for a certain period of time. And I love the fact that this is not an overpowered mobility item. You can fly far, but you can get beamed, you can get shot, and it's hard to use to start with because as you have to use it, you're vulnerable. It also only has 10 uses and seems quite common on floor spawns. Plus, there's a 20-second cooldown before you can use it again. So just in the games I played so far, people can't continually run away with it over and over and over again. For me, W item, this is the meta. Last but not least, we have the Forsaken Vow Blade. Now, I actually don't know if this is in competitive as I'm recording this. It will be on the screen. We'll be able to see. But you basically go into a portal and grab the blade outside after it. Kind of like the lightsabers back in the Star Wars mini-season. Now, the attack on this isn't very strong, thank God. But the dash effect is obviously kind of very similar to the kinetic blade from chapter 4. Now, the kinetic blade was a great item in actual competitive, so I'm not sure if this isn't in comp or why it wouldn't be, because it's insanely balanced as a mobility item generally. And if you have the season, which was this blade and the wingsuit, absolutely go. It might be one of the top 10 competitive seasons of all time. Now, this is the first time there's been nothing in the broken AF tier. Epic Games have absolutely cooked with this season, I will be honest. Like the video, subscribe for more content on Chapter 7. I'm going to be pumping out a ton across the next year. As always, peace.